Welcome to another episode of Plastic Surgery Uncensored. I'm your host, Dr. Rady, and we have, that's right, the second episode of Maria, the producer's Explant journey. So I think the timing of this couldn't be any better. I've been putting a lot of posts about explantation for two reasons. One, because it's a super hot topic, and two, there's a ton of controversy regarding it because it's one of those topics that has a very big emotional component. So what better timing than to have your episode? We're going to try to push your episode forward to air it so that it all coincides at the same time. So welcome to the show. You are now 3 pounds lighter.
It feels like it's 10 pounds lighter.
Yes, it's an incredible journey as a man who's not gone through it, but having had hundreds of patients that I've ushered through it. I almost feel like I can feel the lifting effect of breast reductions, removing of implants, lifting, that's whole phenomenon. So let's give a little quick recap, shall we, before we proceed. Tell me, how old are you? How tall are you?
I'm 60.
60. How tall are you?
5'1.5".
And then your breasts prior to surgery were what size?
Double D, 34 double D.
34 double D. So it's relevant because if you're 5'11" and you weigh 170, double D may seem appropriate for your frame. But there is no question that your breasts for your frame at your age were way too large. Now, you had a breast augmentation how long ago?
19 years ago.
20 years ago after having breastfed your child.
Right.
And as a result, like many women, you notice, well, shit, my breasts have completely involuted, lost a lot of volume, and begun to sag. And as a result, you went and added some volume to your breast to help create a little bit more balance, right?
Right.
Right.
I really wanted a lift.
Right. Yeah, this is very common, so I want you to pay attention. Many times patients go in, and what they say is they want their breast to be perkier. That's the word that they use.
Yeah, that's the word I used.
Yeah, I know. I was there. And perkier is translatable into 75 million things. That's why I hate these terms. Why? Because they're descriptive, and descriptive leads to subjective interpretation. So perkier to one person may be fuller and larger. Perkier to another person means higher and tighter and even smaller. So what you did was your doctor led you to believe that you needed to add volume, and you did a very small lift. It was a donut lift, right? It was a circular lift, but that's not really a lift.
He wouldn't do it if I didn't do the implant.
Right. So you were advised, let's say, by your surgeon, and we'll get to your surgeon in a minute. You were advised by your surgeon that the only way to get perkier breasts was to add volume and do this donut lift or circumareolar, which really is not a lift. It's a Mickey Mouse lift. It's either a lollipop or an anchor, and that's what you really needed. I can tell you that because now I've examined you and I've operated on you. So fast forward, you come to me. We've been together for many years, and you're like, I've had it. Maria, you're 60, right? Everyone's like, you're 60. For the love of God, forget about it. Move on. You're like, no, it's heavy. As we all do, I'm gaining some weight. I'm finding it's much more challenging. I have back pain, neck pain. You have sleep apnea. We don't even know if it's related to that. Mm-hmm. And they're just cumbersome at my age. Mm-hmm. And so because of our relationship, you decided, you know what, F it. I need to reduce and lift my breasts, correct? So you and I had a conversation, and the conversation was, I'd love to get rid of my implants. Mm-hmm. And I want everyone to listen about this concept of explant, because this is why we're having the show, because it's a really hot topic. And I'm very, very passionate about it because I think patients are being super misled. So you said, I'm over it. I want them out. Mm-hmm. And I said, no problem. It's your body. We'll take it out for you. But I said, you may not have pretty breasts when I take out your implants. People think that the answer to it is remove the implants, and your surgeon is a magician, and he or she is going to reconstruct your breasts. Well, I don't know what that means. It means they're going to do a lift, they're going to add fat, they're going to do some magic sorcery, and you're going to have cute small breasts, which is absolutely not true. It may be, depending on how much breast tissue you have, and it may not be, depending on how little breast tissue you have. We don't know until the implants come out what is left behind. And if what's left behind is very little tissue for a broad chest, then you'll be left with flat, unattractive breasts. The end, no question.
Yeah, you were really clear on that.
Now, will you feel better? Of course you'll feel better. The argument is not, there are two purposes. There is, I feel better, I feel lighter, I'm more mobile, I have symptoms of BII, which you didn't. And of course, when the implant is out, you'll feel the relief of that. The second part is, these are my breasts, and I want them to look feminine, attractive, whatnot. Otherwise, just get a mastectomy and let's call it a day. So what I'm referring to is the second issue, not the first issue. And what did I tell you regarding explant?
Well, you told me you weren't sure if you could take them out, if you could replace them.
Right.
Because you needed to see the fat mass.
Right. So I said to you, do you want them out at any cost?
I said no.
Meaning, if they look ugly because you don't have much volume, it's okay. And you said no.
No.
And that's the dialogue. Hear that again, one more time. You and your surgeon need to have this conversation. If you don't care what they look like, knock yourself out, explant, call it a day. Do the reconstruction, do the lift, add fat, whatever you want. But if you care, then your doctor is obligated to tell you that he or she won't know till they're into surgery. And they need to give you the option, which we did, which is, if I remove them, and I notice, my God, Maria, this is not very attractive. Would you mind if I put a smaller implant, so you get the downsizing, you get the relief, they're smaller, but they still have some volume? And what did you say?
I have no problem.
No problem with that.
You do what you feel needs to be done.
Okay, so that I think is a very important dialogue to be had, and the conversation needs to be had. And I recently did a post, recently as in yesterday. My God, there was a whole bunch of women who jumped on there and said, you're you're pro-implant, a woman's, and I'm like, wait, what are you guys talking about? I'm anything but pro-patient. I'm not pro-implant, I'm not pro-explant, I'm pro-patient. I'm about, here are your options, this is the information, make a choice. If you had said to me, Dr. Ravon, hey, you know what, I hear you, thanks so much, I'm married, I don't really care what they look like, I just want them out, and I'd be like, Maria, high five, let's go and do this, and I will make you the prettiest breast I can. But you need to know that there are options, and that if it doesn't look big, now, so where does this all stem from? This is what irks me. Plastic surgeons are like surfers. They're looking for the next wave. And the minute they look into the horizon, they see another wave, boom, they're paddling to the next wave. So the current wave, the massive wave, is explantation. Right. Women are explanting because the aesthetic has changed. People don't like large breasts. Women are explanting because they feel like they have symptoms of BII, which we've done many episodes on, which is just symptoms of feeling fatigue or muscle ache or digestive issues or a whole host of things. Women are taking it out because they don't want to exchange them anymore, and they're over it and they're getting older, as was the case in your instance. There's a million reasons why explant is very popular. All of a sudden, I want you to hear this, doctors are rebranding themselves as explant specialists. That's right, I'm a explant specialist. What the fuck does that even mean? Yeah. It means nothing. It's called marketing, and this is what frustrates me. Because the patients who want explant are very vulnerable. They're very afraid, they're very worried, especially if they have symptoms and they're hoping that the explant will resolve their symptoms. They're vulnerable people. And so what doctors are doing is they're marketing to these patients and giving them the suggestion that they have this magical skill set, which they do not. Listen carefully. Any board certified plastic surgeon who's worth their weight in gold, who has outstanding outcomes, can execute a fantastic explant and should be able to. There are 4 components. Remove the implant. They should be able to do that. A complete capsulectomy. The term is en bloc because that's the term that's been designated, which means take the whole implant and the capsule out together. I do that literally Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. Do some type of reconstruction, which means a lift, and then add some fat, maybe, maybe not, depending on if they need it or not, at the time of surgery or later. Those 4 steps are not specializations. Those 4 steps are not things that you go to specialization school. Those are things that every garden variety plastic surgeon can do. So when people make these comments and then they come on, oh, you're not an expert, you don't specialize in this, you're anti-women, it makes me bananas because I'm the actual opposite. I'm the pro-patient, pro-woman, here are your options, versus the I'm all on board with your pro-choice. So whatever you want to do, I'll do. These patients go in, they get explant, they're told they're going to have a reconstruction, they're going to look great, and yes, they feel better, but no, they don't look good. And some do and some don't. And that's my pet peeve, and I want to drill this into people's head because it's very important. Right. So we're going to take a very quick break, and then we're going to come back and we're going to tell everybody what happened. Did we or did we not remove your implants? Let's see. Do you look smaller? Okay, well, let's take a quick break. We'll be right back with this episode of Plastic Surgery Uncensored. All right, welcome back to Plastic Surgery Uncensored. I know you're all waiting to find out. So, drum roll, whatever. Maria, what happened?
Well, when I woke up from surgery, the first thing I asked was about, I think, the implants, if I'm not mistaken.
For sure. First you ask, am I alive? And then you ask about the implants. Yes.
Well, I knew I was alive if I was talking to you. So the first thing I asked you, and you said, good news, you didn't need implants.
Right. We were able to explant you, meaning remove the implant, because I felt at the time of your surgery, and this is the key component you want in your surgeon, that when I sat you up on the table while you were asleep, that I felt that with the lift and reconstruction, you still looked acceptable, pretty, nice.
I saw volume.
Right. And I felt that you had plenty of volume to do it. So absolutely I want to remove your implants. Why wouldn't I? It doesn't make a difference to me. I don't give a shit. If you want them out, we get them out. But if it doesn't look good, I'm not going to just close my eyes and then, you ask for it.
The reality is, like you said, I never had issues of BII. I didn't feel, it's just as I got older that I gained weight with, menopause and the whole thing. I just got so large. So imagine with the implants,
sure,
and then with my own breast tissue, 20 years ago when I first did it, I had just finished breastfeeding. I had a hyperthyroid situation, so I had gotten even skinnier. So I lost a lot of fat. And so I just wanted it tighter, perkier, and that's all I wanted. The doctor insisted I needed an implant. So I had to trust him. I went with him and I trusted him.
Of course.
So I said, okay, just like I trusted you when you told me, I don't know if you're going to need an implant or not. Are you okay with it? I said, I'm okay with your decision. I would prefer not to have it. But if you feel I need it, I want it to look nice. That was my priority. I want it to look nice, but I want it to feel in proportion to my body.
Got it. And so what I love is that I feel is the best execution of patient-doctor relationship. I tell you your options. I tell you the reality. I give you true, realistic expectations. You are then informed and empowered, and then you get to select what you want. Another woman sitting in your seat would have said, hey, I appreciate it, but I don't feel well. I don't like the way I feel with implants, so I want them out under any circumstance. Even if you feel that they're not as attractive, just make them look as good as possible. Awesome, A-okay, let's do it. So the key is this dialogue that we had, which I believe is often omitted and is just not had. So it turned out that you were a little misled because you told me when we spoke, granted your augmentation was almost 20 years ago, I said, a big component of when I look at a patient is, here your breast is, let's say, I'm making it up. Let's say your breast is a C now when I'm looking at it, and you show me a card that says your breast implants are 400 cc's. Well, I can tell you in advance, you have no breast tissue because I know based on the size of your breast currently and how big a 400 cc implant is, your whole breast is implant. Conversely, if you have very large breasts and your implants are very small, then I know that your implants make up a very small percentage if I'm guessing in advance.
Right.
So you were led to believe.
I was led to believe that I had the smallest because I was so adamant against initially the implant. They said, I'm putting the smallest, which is 100 cc, and on your other breast, is 120, 140. I can't remember. I know one breast
Yes,
had
you were a
needed
little
more.
bit asymmetric for sure.
Right. And I said, okay. So I always was fine with that. I said, well, okay, that's what had to happen. And when I would go do a mammogram, they would always tell me, and why do you have implants? You have so much
Breast tissue, right. So it turned out when we went in and we took out your implants were far from 100 or 120, or they were 295.
Jesus Christ. Every time I hear that, like I
and
go into shock.
275, which are not ginormous.
No, it feels ginormous.
But they are large implants. They are not large implants. They are legit. The standard implant, the most common implant in the United States, is about 300 cc's. So it was about that size, but it sure as hell wasn't 100, 120 cc's. That's about that big of an implant.
And what was my reaction when I woke up from
yeah.
the anesthesia? What?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've been under this impression for 20 years that, that they were this way, and then you are under, it's frustrating because the reason it's frustrating is A, you wanted a lift, not an implant. Mm-hmm. 2, you've been carrying around these large implants under the impression that they were just a small implant, that most of it was your own breast tissue. In reality, it wasn't. So what I did is I removed the implants, take them out. With you on the table, I sit you up, you're asleep, and then I had already marked your reconstruction, which was an anchor lift. I temporarily staple it, and I look with my own eyes and I go, this'll work. You have enough tissue for it to look feminine and round. Who's to decide? I'm your aesthetic surgeon. Right. That's obviously ultimately my call because I'm the guy you hired to make the breast. If your other doctor has a different aesthetic, they may have said something different. Mm-hmm. So I said, this will work. And in addition to removing the implants, I removed some breast tissue because your goal ultimately was to be somewhere in the C range. Mm-hmm. And not only did you have enough breast tissue, you still had a little bit extra tissue that I could remove in order to create a beautiful breast. So you are now 2 weeks out from surgery, and let's have this conversation. Because the only thing that matters is how you feel. So we had our previous episode prior, and here you are 2 weeks after. Let's hear it.
A big relief. I feel I can breathe. I almost feel like my sleep apnea, which was borderline severe, according to the test that I did, I think it's almost gone. I mean, I don't know if it's because of the medication I was taking, which I only took first 3 days. I had no pain.
So let's start with that first thing. Mm-hmm. I told you that this would have no pain. The reason I told you this would have no pain is because the procedure we were doing, removal and all those things, does not have pain. Putting an implant the first time is uncomfortable. Taking out an implant and doing a lift and a reconstruction and all that shouldn't be. And was it?
No, it was, I had discomfort, but not pain.
Wasn't painful, got it. So you're saying that you might even think that your sleep apnea might have already improved, to be determined, but definitely you're sleeping better.
Yeah, I wake up very rested. This last week I have not been on any type of pain medication. And I wake up rested. Whereas before I would, the other thing I noticed was since I had this, I've been sleeping on my back, which I never slept on my back. I would always be a side sleeper, which I can't right now. And that would be to sleep on my back was very difficult for me to breathe. I would find that I would be a little bit out of breath, so that's why I would turn over. Now I'm sleeping on my back for the past 2 weeks and I have not had any problems.
And isn't that remarkable? And it's been 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. Makes sense. Because for your frame, your breast tissue, breast implant combined are large. So if tomorrow I put a shoe strap around my neck and I carried 2 balls on my chest that were attached to me all day long, I too would have complained of neck and back pain, shoulder pain. I'd find that when I lay backwards, the pressure of these 2 things would cause me discomfort. And it would alter my physiology. Mm-hmm. So removing them naturally should have some serious impact. And it's incredible how quickly you feel amazing. Yeah. I have had, swear to God, patients in recovery be like, holy shit, when I've done huge breast reductions or very large explants. They're just beyond themselves in terms of excitement. Did we use a drain?
No.
No drain.
Everybody was asking me about that. I go, what do you mean
Right,
about
because
it?
there's a huge conversation about this Explant online with drain. Did we end up having to use some type of mesh?
Not that I'm aware of.
No, there was no mesh. That's another thing that's being brought up all the time in these things. You need this mesh, you need this scaffolding, you need this thing. Did we end up having to do fat transfer?
No.
No. So let's take a moment here and talk about fat transfer because it's really important you understand this. So this is my third pet peeve. So when people are told they don't have a lot of breast tissue because you remove the implant and what do you know? You yourself have almost no breast tissue. The dialogue, the conversation, the answer is, well, no problem. I'll just do fat transfer. And it's as if to suggest that that's the solution. And it absolutely is not the solution. It is a part of the reconstruction that can be helpful, but by no means, if you have no breast tissue, is it going to solve the problem. It's some savior. The way fat transfer works is as follows. We've removed an implant that big, and there's a huge space. You cannot put fat in that space. It's a dead space. The fat has to go into the breast tissue, which we've demonstrated is super thin. You have no breast tissue. So you liposuction areas of your body, you prepare the fat into syringes, and then you start putting fat into the breast, which we know is so little, which the nipple has to survive because your normal's almost always doing a lift, and you start putting fat in it. How much fat do you think you could possibly put into a tiny breast that has no breast tissue, meaning from the skin down? Not a lot. Therefore,
And you lose some also, don't you? When you
after you put the fat in, a substantial half, 2/3, 1/3, whatever, goes away. Additionally, some people develop some microcalcifications. They're not cancerous, but they can make mammograms confusing. And you're led to believe, and this is the key, that by removing your implant, doing a reconstruction and fat transfer, you're going to have some aesthetically wonderful outcome. And the answer is that's a lie. If you don't have a lot of breast tissue. When you have breast tissue, and in your instance you had more than enough, then there are women that have enough in which some fat transfer may help make it a little better. But if you're in this category, which is I just don't have a lot of breast tissue, that's why I got the breast implant. No fat transfer on the planet is going to suddenly give you beautiful breasts. So yes, take out your implants. Yes, you will feel better. Yes, yes, yes. But when doctors are misleading you to think that fat transfer is going to work, it generally doesn't. So that is my pet peeve on fat transfer. It is being misrepresented to patients as if you take out an implant like it's that big and you just shove fat in there and it's like a win-win. And it couldn't be farthest from the truth. So the reason you did get fat transfers, you just didn't need it. Had you needed it, we would have considered it. People who get fat transfer often need a little at the time of surgery and sometimes several rounds afterwards. So you're headed back to Miami.
Yes.
You've been here for 2 weeks. You feel much, much better, right?
Yes. And I'm glad I stayed. That was the other thing.
Right. So,
because you really need to rest.
yeah, well, that's why we force you.
And I needed the rest.
Yeah, yeah. Well, that's why we force you to stay here for 2 weeks. Yeah. So, any advice for women who are, not any, a lot of women who are out there who have implants, as we all know, in terms of the percentages, the overwhelming majority of patients with implants love them. This is a small subset and a growing subset, but still a very vocal subset of individuals who are like, I'm over it, BII, they're too big, they're ruptured, whatever. What kind of advice do you have for women who are at home listening and they're like, fuck, I hate my implants, I want them out?
Well, the best thing I can say is if you really feel uncomfortable with your implants or your breasts in general, you should try and see what you can do and research the doctor. I will tell you, I would not have done this if I didn't feel that I trusted. I mean, I trusted you because I've been working with you for 4 years. So I was hearing all the stories when, I wouldn't have done it if I didn't feel comfortable that I was going to get a good outcome. Nowadays, there's so many surgeons saying so many different things. You really have to do your research. When I first did these implants 20 years ago, we didn't have social media like we have today. I had to do my research. I had to look at his background. board certified, Cornell grad, prestigious plastic surgeon in Miami, and I still didn't get the outcome that I wanted.
Sure.
So, but in my case, I feel that for women, if you're in this situation and you really want to get out, I'm 60, and I said, I don't want to keep waiting and seeing other people, and it was starting to take a toll on me. When I dressed, I didn't feel comfortable. And now after I did this, my husband looks at me sometimes and he's smiling, and I go, why are you smiling? And he goes, because I'm seeing you smile. I'm seeing you relaxed. I'm seeing you light. This is the way when I first met you, you were like this, so. And he said that after the fact. He said that after looking at me, saying I was smiling. So if women want to or feel uncomfortable with their breasts the way they are, they should take action and just research it to make sure you get the ultimate, the best.
I think one of the things that you had said to me, which was very resonated with me, is you wish you had done it earlier. Now, you didn't do it earlier because, let's be honest, you're kind of a scaredy cat. You're more so than the general public, you're afraid of bad outcomes, whether that's because you didn't have a good outcome, whether or not it's because we work together, but your personality is a very cautionary one.
I'm a journalist. I'm a cynic.
Yeah, perfect. You're a cynic. You're a journalist. I'm Jewish. We're both, going to be the glass is half.
I'm almost half Jewish.
Half empty. The glass is half empty. Yeah. So, but there's no question that the liberation. You have just begun the cruise. The cruise just left the dock. In the next couple of weeks, and when I let you go and go exercise, you will then begin to reap the benefits of this lightening. You will then realize, oh my God, what could I've enjoyed more over the last decade as a result of the freedom. So I think that was something that resonated with me, and I think good for you, because a lot of people would have said, come on, Maria, you're 60, who gives a shit? Why don't you worry about your face right now? And the truth is that your breasts were a handicap. They were holding you back. So I'm very happy for you. You survived.
Yeah, maybe I'll do my face next.
Yeah, there you have it. Look at that. You like how I just dropped that seed?
Because he keeps telling me I need something.
Well, I see, because I think you're a beautiful woman, and any artist who sees a lovely canvas only gets excited to paint. So at any rate, thank you so much for being on the show and sharing everybody your own journey, and more importantly, I'm just happy that you're happy. And we'll probably.
I wanted to say one thing. When I did when you came to see my breast after the surgery, you looked at me. You go, "What's wrong with you? What's up with you?" Right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, sure.
And I kept saying, "What is he talking about?" And I think, I keep analyzing that. And I told my husband, "Why would he say that?" And then I started thinking about it. I analyze everything, overanalyze, and I think it was the shock to finally see my breast so small. I was like, wow, I was like really in awe. I was like dumbfounded, plus the fact of the 200 and something cc breast implants that you took out. But that to me was basically in my head. It was just like I kept it inside, and I looked at myself and I go, wow, what a difference. It was like I was in shock.
Yeah, I mean, the reason I mentioned that is I'm an emotional surgeon. An emotional surgeon means I take all of my feedback through the experience of my patients. When they're happy, I'm happy. When they're unhappy, I'm unhappy. And generally speaking, noses, I expect a little bit of a fear component. But breasts, historically, patients are so elated as far as reductions more than anything else, because there's just so many components, pain, suffering, whatever. And so I was, and it makes sense because I've told Sally, I bet she's just kind of just processing it. But I get excited when I come in and you're like, holy shit, this is unbelievable. I'm so excited. So, well, nevertheless, I'm glad that you're happy.
No, I'm very happy.
So, well, that wraps up another episode of Plastic Surgery Uncensored. I want you all to pay very close attention to this particular episode. Explantation's on the rise. And if you know someone or you love someone who has an implant or who's having issues with them and they want to hear a little bit more about the sort of intricacies of explantation, not just what's on TikTok and Instagram, forward them this episode. As always, write something nice. We love nice comments, and share with the people you love. All right, Maria, that wraps up this episode of Plastic Surgery Uncensored. We'll see you next week. As always, be safe.